Recognizing the member for Richmond South Centre.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. And I just want to take the opportunity to express my sincere support for Bill 35, addressing some of the Short-Term Rental Accommodation Act. For starters, I do want to take this opportunity again to express my sincere gratitude for Richmond South Centre allowing me to represent them, because housing is one of the bigger challenges. I think instead of calling it housing issues, we have a home issue. People are looking for a way to create a home. We're looking forward to allowing individuals to settle down in the community, establish their roots, and form connections. And one of the reasons why I'm so supportive of Bill 35 is that it started off by saying if we actually are able to address some of those multiple units, short-term rentals, we can return upon 16,000 whole house unit back into the housing market, and allowing more young people to be able to find different kind of home options, and addressing as one of our multiple pronged approach of a housing crisis that we're dealing with. One of the key things that was brought to my attention is that over 28,500 short-term rentals are listed active each day in British Columbia. Many people are utilizing their own primary residence and create a sub-unit to create an additional income. And we understand that is a different way of addressing issue. But when you have 28,500 short-term rentals listed active each day, and then almost 50% of those units, have multiple listings, it creates concern. It's telling us many individuals who are taking advantage of a short-term rental and running it like a hotel. It's not fair for a lot of businesses who actually spend money and effort to create brick-and-mortar facilities like hotels to support local communities' tourism industry. And at the same time, short-term rental is meant to be just simple complementary. It's not meant to steal or take away housing units away from our housing stock in British Columbia, away from individuals who actually needs a home to rent, to purchase. So when we're looking at the number of short-term rentals that's been increasing 20% year by year, that is an incredible, shocking figure for us to think about. If we increase by something by 10% by compound interest, it only takes 10 years to double the number. When we talk about 20% year over year, that scares me. That tells me short-term rental is growing in such a rapid pace. It's squeezing our housing market and putting a lot of young people and putting housing market into unaffordable range. And this is definitely one of the many issues that need to be addressed. And I'm very thankful for our Minister of Housing to place such a strong emphasis on addressing this issue. I think as a Richmond MLA, I often have to also ask myself, the figure that's been provided for me, how many of them are addressing those illegal units that's hidden within our community? I remember I used to live in what's called apartment building, and often seeing people come in and out of suitcases on a regular basis, even though back then the building was a non-rental unit. We do not allow rental back then. And that reminds me that how many opportunity for a family to buy a home is being taken away because somebody in the name of profit decided to purchase multiple units, and because short-term rental might make more money in the short run, decided to run an almost hotel-like business in our city. I know I have faith in our local government. I have faith in our elected officials over City of Richmond that when they actually put out a plan in supporting our city development in regard to how we can make sure we develop what is appropriate for our city. But when you have illegal markets happening in the background, or markets functioning in a way that doesn't match the development target, it put all of our numbers, it put all our efforts to support a holistic, healthy community at risk. That's why I'm very, very excited to be able to see that Bill 35 is being put on the table for us to have good discussion around. I think one of the things, another figure that I almost want to say it's not just shocking, it's almost heartbreaking, that, as I mentioned earlier, like 20% by year. But if you look at the total number of a short-term market, it's dominated by 10% of the operator who actually makes 50% of the profit. It has become a very profit-driven market to the point that it's become an industry when it was initially designed just to be a supplementary of a little household income. I think this deviation from the initial design of short-term rental is something that's being addressed by Bill 35. I also want to emphasize that we are having a housing crisis. We also have a labor shortage. Many people who are making close to minimum wage probably want to work near where they live, because obviously we're dealing with a lot of transportation expense and traveling costs, and they want to spend more time with their family too. And one of our goals we are trying to really focus is to allow young people to find units within our city. I know for Richmond, short-term rental units listing is everywhere. And if we can convert them into homes for young families, how great would that be to help us support our labor market, to allow people to actually find local jobs that can support them and support their families, and allow schools to be supported by the local individuals. That's why when we're looking at this short-term rental issue and how it has become a bigger burden upon our housing market, when we're addressing housing crisis, I'm again very thankful for our Minister of Housing to really tackling this issue, to allow us to using through different strategies to release different housing stocks back to the market so that we can create more homes, not for-profit units, not some kind of hotel mimicking system, but homes back into our community. We do not want to build a tower where people come and go and nobody who knows who one another is. We don't want to build an apartment where the neighbors don't know one another because they get changed every day. We want people to have neighborhoods, and neighborhoods where people to have long-lasting relationship with the area where they spend time in. And if you look at the community amenities, you talk about swimming pools, hockey arenas, you're talking about basketball courts. All those are justified when they're being utilized by the taxpayers in a way that's meaningful and rewarding for the local community. But this kind of short-term rental, when you have multiple listings that's not within your primary residential units, it's creating a market like hotel-like market that's taking away many, many homes and eroding the very sense of neighborhood that we British Columbia in the past so cherished. I would like to even go back to a little personal anecdote story. I remember when I was a kid, one of the things we always loved to do is playing hockey in the street, on the streets in front of my house. Kids come together. It's a fun activity to get to participate. And of course, we have a lot of scars, wounds, and the laughters as we come together and form a neighborhood. That's what British Columbians are looking for. British Columbians are coming together and say, what can we do to really ask ourselves, can I know my neighbor? Can I go to across the street to borrow a container of sugar? If we have some kind of issue, do I have someone who I can have a relationship with? I can name them by their first name. Instead of seeing strangers carrying suitcase in our regular basis. That place a question mark. That people often say, is this apartment not even safe? Because we have a bunch of strangers we have never met before. I apologize for a second. Having runny nose, my apologies. And that's one of the reasons why I really want to emphasize. I'm pretty sure our colleagues across everywhere all believe that British Columbia wants to have neighborhoods. All British Columbians want to have a community. All British Columbians want to have an opportunity to come together and celebrate the fact that we're all British Columbians. And that's why I'm so thankful for Bill 35 to place a greater emphasis on how we can actually release some hotel-like market units and back into creating homes. And I think one of the things we want to talk about is instead of calling it a short-term rental accommodation act, we should really talk about how can we create more homes for British Columbians. And this is just what I'm so excited about this policy. I think one of the interesting part about this too is I had a conversation with multiple municipal elected officials about short-term rental. They struggle with it. I think every level of government, from federal, provincial, even municipal, we only understand we are under a lot of housing crisis at this point, a lot of housing challenges need to be addressed, or the fact, I like to say, the lack of homes. The municipal government are trying their best to address this issue. They want to step up. I know the council and the mayor are doing whatever they can to make sure we create more home units for British Columbians. That's the reason why Bill 35 will actually strengthen and increase the fines that local government can charge to strengthen their ability to enforce the local rules. It will require short-term rental platforms to share their data, which the provincial government and local enforcement. and increase short-term rental platform accountability to make sure local rules are followed. And of course, if you look at some of the strength and the benefit of Bill 35, it really focuses on how we can actually work with different platforms to really understand how we can actually remove those inappropriate units. But I also want to emphasize, I would love to see what can we do to help our local government to address some of those hidden short-term rental that's being within a community as well. I know somebody might say, you know what, if the short-term rental with Bill 35 can release about 16,000 or even maybe 8,000 units, that's perfect. But why don't your government build 8,000 more units? Our government, they are building. We are working hard to build different units. For students' housing units, we built 8,000 already and adding 4,000 more to it. We'll continue playing catch-up and building more units to address housing issue. But with this Bill 35, it will help us also prevent new units that's being built, being purchased into short-term rental. We want those units to continue to be, we want to be building homes. And I think key word I would like to continue to emphasize is we're here to build homes. And we're continuously working with British Columbia, with different level of government, with different industry, different sectors, to really ask how can we create a number of homes available for a younger generation, for the seniors who are looking for a place to settle down. We're looking for ways to ensure British Columbia can stay in British Columbia. I know there was stats I was sharing with us that close to 250,000 people in the last few years has moved into British Columbia. It shows British Columbia is growing. It shows British Columbia is actually thriving. And we have also a number of immigrants coming in too. They're bringing skilled workers. They're bringing different talents. They're bringing their different perspective and culture to enrich, to diversify, and to strengthen British Columbia. And we want them to be feeling welcome too. So that's why our government is doing so many different great works to address different levels of services, to ensure that we're investing, so we can invest in early, instead of worrying about future expense that we have to play catch up on inappropriate interventions. And when we talk about short-term rental, this is again one of many of our strategies that will come in to say we need those housing market to be released. Those housing stock belongs to British Columbia as form of homes. It can be rented out, it can be purchased, but do not turn them into some form of profit-generating hotel-like units. Like, there is the expectation that if people own a primary unit and have a sub-unit within the primary resident, they can use it. If they have multiple units, of course, there's a limitation to it. But in the end, people shouldn't be able to go around and say, because I am financially able to, I'm going to buy multiple units in a community and start renting them out like hotel rooms. And then taking away the very neat stock for young people to call home. And I also want to emphasize one thing in Richmond too, is Richmond is a very diverse community. I want to speak from Richmond's perspective as well. Richmond is a very diverse community where we want our young people to be here. We have a lot of economic individuals who are well off. We also have individuals who are struggling. And I think one of the things we are trying to do is we always focus on how can we allow all people of Richmond or British Columbia, we can all prosper together. But when it comes to Richmond, when we're looking at the ride-hailing, when we're looking at short-term rentals, when we're looking at different kinds of services, we also need to understand some of them need to be addressed. So that way, the proper benefit of the bill can be implemented. That's why, again, I'm going to go back to talking about how we can strengthen tools for local government. And so we're really asking ourselves, how can we ensure the local government can find a way to address those people who are violating the rules, who are turning units into inappropriate usage, or I should say, taking them out of the housing stock, so that we have less home to really appreciate for young people and for seniors. So with all that being said, I do want to emphasize the importance that why I support Bill 35, and I really believe that I'm hoping all our colleagues from across the aisle will also stand up as well, so that we can all join together and fight for homes for all British Columbians. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Member.